So, yesterday we ended up making this YouTube video on the channel, asking the question as to whether or not the newest Ottawa Senators forward Dylan Cozens could be a franchise player. Yeah, the tagline is a little bit clickbaity, not gonna lie, but I do think that this video served a pretty good purpose in stirring the pot as to the Cozens conversation as a member of the Ottawa Senators. Well, we're making this follow-up video here as a bit of an expansion on the Cozens conversation because yesterday we spoke about how Cozens had a really good debut game with Ottawa. He's playing later tonight against the Detroit Red Wings, so we'll see if he's able to keep that momentum up. But not only are we talking about Cozens and the Sens, but we are also talking about Cozens and the Sabres, the former team, wherein Cozens was a part of ever since he got drafted by them in 2019, and the team which paid him the contract that he is on right now. $7+ million till the 2030s. The guy's making a lot of money, and hopefully he's able to improve his point production and get back up to near 70-point caliber as the years go on. I get it, 1 assist to open up his Ottawa Senators debut is not going to be the most incredible thing in the world, but it's a point that you would rather have than not have. And ultimately, one of the things that we had been talking about Cozens in the prior few videos has been his decline. We've gone over it so many times, but he had 68 points in 81 games in 22-23, followed up by 47 points the year after, and 31 points in 61 games the year after that. This is where I wanted to refer to a conversation that Cozens sparked up yesterday after we made our video about him. We made some extra comments and some extra things that kind of throw a little bit of shade, so we're going to dive into that and more here. This first tweet is the same video we looked at yesterday on Everyday Sens Twitter account. It's Dylan Cozens being fired up after being named the second star in his Ottawa debut. We saw this yesterday, but then there was a response here. Joe John says that Cozens is one of the softest players in the league. Enjoy. What? The Sens guy says. The dude has missed less than 10 games in the last 6 years. Joe then replies saying, I didn't say injury prone, dude. 9 hits is soft? It's 1 game. He pretended to be a tough guy in Buffalo for a little while too. And then you had this response from Chris. He played good and tough when the Sabres were actually playing for a spot in the playoffs, unlike now. No one on that Sabres team has any drive anymore. So, interesting response from some Buffalo fans going out there and responding to Dylan Cozens' great debut, saying, yeah, he's soft, he doesn't really put in that intensity, he had a great first game with Ottawa, but just you wait, this guy fades away, he wasn't that tough guy in Buffalo for a while after, but he did start out that way, so be careful, because the same thing's going to happen here. But then the final response in this thread says that he actually played tough, he played well, when the Sabres were competitive. But no one on that Buffalo team has that same drive anymore. You see, the reason we are bringing this tweet up is because Everyday Sens quote tweeted this Chris tweet yesterday after we made our video. Here are some new quotes from Dylan Cozens today. We were at a point in Buffalo where all hope for the playoffs was lost. Now my mentality has switched. It was tough mentally being so close to the playoffs 2 years ago and then taking a step back and another step back this year. Some more quotes from Everyday Sens. He also admitted that he could have played better to help them be a better team, but Cozens reiterated that it was really tough to go through the regression. I've never seen a player more in need of a change of scenery. The dude was straight up burnt out. And all I gotta say to that is, good luck, have fun, Josh Norris, I guess. But ultimately, this is one of the things that I think can really ignite the next chapter of Dylan Cozens' career. We had spoken about this yesterday in the video, and to be fair, it's still 1 game of a sample size we have seen of Cozens in Ottawa. But when you think about it, the guy is still 23, 24 years old. He's in that age range. He is still maturing and developing. He's already got the bag. He's got the contract already. He doesn't need to worry about any sort of an extension. He's making a very good amount of money. because of potential he had showed in the past. And this goes back to also what Henrik Lundqvist was talking about on TNT a few months ago. Remember when Paul Bissonnette called out Connor Bedard for playing shinny hockey? Or was it pond hockey or something like that? You had Henrik Lundqvist going out there and making a comment on that same broadcast, talking about why it's so difficult for rebuilding teams to get out of the funk of being in a rebuild. You have guys that can play really nicely, they have great skills, they can do really fancy tricks and moves and stuff. But when you have a bunch of young guys on a team, you have a lot of youthful draft picks and talented prospects making their debut around the same time. When you have that culture where everybody's a young guy, they're all trying to prove themselves, they're all trying to do fancy things, when that becomes the foundation of your hockey team, it becomes difficult to really break through and take that next step. Because what you lack is the same habits that make a Stanley Cup championship caliber team a Stanley Cup championship caliber team. Guys who are just willing to dump it in and go for the change. Guys who are willing to take the hit to make the play. All these old classic hockey cliches. Like it or not, the Stanley Cup isn't won by doing a whole bunch of Michigans and pulling off Kent Johnson, Pavel Datsyuk like Deeks every single shift. It's won through hard, gritty battles, and it's why we've seen this sort of gladiator-style mentality when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. So when you have teams that have a whole bunch of young dudes, it's really difficult to take that next step without veteran leadership and without guys holding younger players accountable, saying, hey, don't try to make this fancy deke and dangle around three guys at the blue line, dump it in and go for a change. That's the right move, rather than making everything about yourself. And for Dylan Cozens, this relates back to the Buffalo Sabres because they are one of those teams that's had a very difficult time trying to break past that role of being such a bottom feeder, mediocre team. I'm not saying necessarily that it's directly because they have too many skilled young guys, but it's one of these aspects that I do think makes sense because Ottawa, while they do have the skill, Brady Tkachuk can score, Timmy Stu is a wizard, Jake Sanderson can be one of the best in the league, but Ottawa is a lot more hard-nosed than Buffalo is. Just think about what Brady Tkachuk goes out there and does. Think about David Perron and the effort that he puts in every shift. There are a lot of things that make this Buffalo team easier to play against than Ottawa. Even though the Sabres can score a whole bunch of goals at any given moment and they do have guys who are talented, at the end of the day, the team is still one of the worst in the NHL, standings-wise. And Ottawa's better not just because, they've got more talented pieces, it's goaltending, it's this, it's that. They have a much more well-rounded core of guys that can do everything they need to. And Cozens playing in that organization probably motivates him to do better. So, for the folks on Twitter who were saying that Cozens pretended to be a tough guy in Buffalo, but then he stopped being that and he was soft and everything, it does seem like, for Cozens, who is a mid-20-year-old human being after all, that sort of standard and culture for the team may have had a really big impact on the ineffectiveness of his game. And now in Ottawa, there's that spark, he's got that motivation, who knows, this could be the start of something fantastic. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Dylan Cozens and his low-key shade, his comments calling out the Buffalo Sabres, talking about their team culture. It's like that Slipknot album, All Hope Is Gone. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99 and bye.